The president just gave an interview with Fox News, and during that interview, this is what he had to say with regard to his feelings on General Motors and its decision to close 4 plants here in the United States over the next year. Listen to this.
I don't like that General Motors does that, and they're going down to Mexico to make cars. Now, the new deal, the USMCA that I made, really makes it very uncomfortable for people to go out of the country, and it will be very uncomfortable for them. I think she's making a big mistake. They've changed the whole model of General Motors. They're going to all electric. All electric's not going to work. I don't run a car company, but all electric is not going to work. It's wonderful to have it as a percentage of your cars, but going into this model that she's doing, I think, is a mistake. But to tell me a couple of weeks before Christmas that she's going to close in Ohio and Michigan, not acceptable to me. And she's either going to open fast or somebody else is going to go in, but General Motors is not going to be treated well.
All right, so it brings up the question, did the president say anything here that would make an investor in General Motors say, this is not good news for the company? Clearly, you do not want to be targeted by the White House or by the president. No company wants that. But in reality, I'm not sure there's a whole lot the White House can do here in terms of forcing General Motors to bring back production either at Hamtramck or at the Lordstown plant. Keep in mind, those plants are idled. We have the UAW negotiations by the end of next year.
What I was going to ask
you
about.
could see them make a decision, you know what, we're going to bring back some production, or we're going to start up production again in Lordstown or at Hamtramck. That's always a possibility there. But in terms of, putting the gun to the head of Mary Barra and say, you're going to do it, whether you like it or not, she made this decision because she does not want General Motors to go down the path that they went down in the past, which was keeping plants running, even if there wasn't a market for the vehicles being built.
GM will not be treated well. What does he mean by that? Or can you intuit?
He seemed to refer to the USMCA agreement itself, suggesting that nobody would be treated well if they leave the country, which changes the entire supply chain for companies well beyond
Right,
GM.
and they've already, if that agreement goes through and it's approved and ratified by all 3 countries, they've made their decisions in terms of their production. I'm not sure how much he could do. Now, look, could he make them a target of a campaign when he runs for re-election and basically have people chanting things like GM is terrible or something like that? That's always a possibility. That's part of his playbook. Whether or not that would impact sales remains to be seen. But Mary Barra and her team are making this decision based on what's best for the financial health of that company. And that's why they made this decision.
It's ironic because the U.S. sold its interest in GM years ago. And here President Trump is saying, we don't want to run a car company. We're not in the car business. And yet they want to be in the car business in telling GM what to do. I mean, it's staggering what this government wants to do with private companies.
And that last part there about electric cars, that's off the reservation. That's wrong. That's not what General Motors is doing. Is it investing more in electric vehicles?
Right.
Yes. Is it getting out of making internal combustion engine vehicles?
No.
No. It's not going all electric, as the president suggests in that comment.
Is GM using the president and these comments as a way, is this a salvo in GM against the union head, who I understand is new, if they're saying, look, we need to close some of these plants, we need to rationalize and improve our operations. Is getting the attention of the president actually an easier way to achieve those goals?
I don't think they want to get the attention of the president in order to do that. But I will say that General Motors will be very hard in its negotiations. Look at what it did in South Korea. They basically said to the government, we're shutting down this operation here unless we get a much better labor agreement. They got it. Now, will they do the same thing with the UAW? They're always going to negotiate as hard as possible. And there's no doubt that idling these 4 plants, it's a way for them to come back to the UAW and say, look, we got to do something. We have too much capacity. That has to go. Capacity has to go out of the system at some point. Let's see what we can do in order to change, whether it's in Lordstown or somewhere else, et cetera.